everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to be talking about the Summer Abroad South Africa virtual program this morning. So thank you very much. Let's get started. Before we do begin, I do wish to acknowledge the land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So looking at what we're going to be covering, we are going to be together probably for the next 45 minutes, an hour. It depends how many questions we have and how much you want to know. But we do have some topics already covered. We're going to be looking at the Summer Abroad program as a whole. I'll be talking about the details specifically of the 2022 South Africa virtual program. We have a student speaker who will talk about the student experience, and then we'll talk about how to apply, costs, and the next steps involved. But before we really get into it, I just want to introduce you to the other people who are on the call here. My name is Adam, and I'm the program coordinator for the South Africa Summer Abroad program. I've been working on the South Africa program for 5 years, perhaps now, and it's been a real pleasure to work with Professor Ann Armstrong, the instructor for the course, who's here as well. And also joining us is one of our partners from South Africa, Pierre Kotzer, who just reported that it's 35 degrees Celsius down there. So we're very envious of the warm weather. Pierre works at Reciprocity, which is a consulting company that we partner with for this program specifically. And then also Nicole, who was a participant in the program last summer when the program also was run virtually. So she'll speak a little bit about what it was like taking a course this way. And then finally, one of my colleagues in the Summer Abroad office, Genevieve, is on the call, and she'll be helping to troubleshoot if we have any technical issues, just help out on the back end of things. If you've not participated in a Zoom webinar before, you'll notice that Zoom is laid out a little bit differently. As an attendee, you're not able to turn on your camera or microphone. So if you're having breakfast or drinking coffee, you don't need to worry about what you look like on camera. It's fine. We can't see you. But if you have any questions that you want to ask, there's a Q&A module where you would normally turn your camera on and off and have the mute button. You'll see a Q&A button. And if you pull that up, you can type in questions. They'll come through to us on the back end, and we'll either be able to type a response or we can address it directly during the presentation. Also, you'll notice you can't chat with one another. The chat feature is turned off. It's just the Q&A module there. So let's get started. So for those who are not familiar with what Summer Abroad is an opportunity to take a U of T course with an international destination involved with it. These are small classes, usually 18 to 30 students. This program specifically, we're looking to admit 20 students to participate, and you do earn a full credit, a Y credit, in the time over the summer. These courses can be used to fulfill your program or breadth requirement. They're just like any other U of T course. So it's going to show up on your transcript and count towards your CGPA and meet all those requirements. These courses are taught by U of T faculty and sometimes international faculty, depending on the destination and what we're doing. We have support for you, both non-academic and then on-site, if it was to be on-site like it has been in the past. It's an opportunity to work closely with your instructor and colleagues, especially in this course. It is so small. There's a lot of group work involved. You're going to really get to know one another, and it's a great opportunity also have a more personal connection with a faculty member. If you're not used to being in a small class, this is a great opportunity to experience that and really get to know your instructor. And then you're experiencing what you learn. So when the programs happen in person, that means going on field trips that are connected to what you're learning about in the classroom and seeing it firsthand. In the virtual format, you are connecting with professionals and experts in the field or visiting virtually some of the site. This program gives you lots of opportunities, though, to connect with people in Cape Town, as you'll hear about in a little bit. So some of the reasons why you might want to consider doing a virtual summer abroad is it's still an opportunity to build your network and explore possibilities for school beyond your undergraduate degree. You're going to gain practical, hands-on skills and still having an international experience without actually going abroad. You're not also paying to go abroad, so it is a more affordable experience than the on-site programs. So this is a good opportunity. If cost is a factor in being able to do a summer abroad normally, then doing virtual summer abroad may be the way to go. You also will be able to make lifelong friends. We hear from many people that have met on a summer abroad are people that they still are in touch with years afterwards. We've had people who've met and gotten married from being on a summer abroad. They're also a great opportunity just to gain some confidence, learn more about yourself, and become more independent. And then certainly in this course, the last one I would say is underscored. You're going to very much gain communication and presentation skills. It's a big element of this course. So some other reasons, just again, you're only focused. So a lot of people will ask, okay, how can I get a full year course in only 5 weeks? And this is because the structure is a little different from your normal semester. So in a summer abroad course, you are fully immersed in that one course that you're taking. So it might be that you're in class Monday to Friday for 3 hours a day, just doing that one course. So that's how the credit is earned. And a lot of students really like this sort of intensity because it's only one course that you're worrying about. And so you really get to know the content, you really spend all your time on it, and you're not distracted by your other courses and other deadlines. So it's just a streamlined experience. And obviously a benefit of the virtual course is you can take the course from anywhere you want. Last year for the virtual South Africa, we had students on the west coast of North America, in China, here in Toronto. So certainly all over. Something to keep in mind for the virtual courses, well, for all summer abroad, attendance is mandatory at all classes, in part because it is such an intense course. If you miss one class, then you're going to miss a lot of the content. So attendance is mandatory. And in the virtual classes, we do ask you to participate fully, having a webcam, access to reliable internet, and then being on camera during the calls as well. So looking more specifically at the South Africa virtual program, the course that we're offering is MGT 396, Business Modeling in Global Organizations. In the past, the course code was different, but the content is all still the same. It's just the course code is different for anyone who is paying attention to past years, what we've done. So to speak about the academic component, I'd like to invite Ann Armstrong, Professor Ann Armstrong, to come on and speak about that.
Yeah, thank you, Adam, and welcome to everyone I can't see in the webinar. Just one thing I want to note, in addition to the fact that the course code has changed, it must be a generic title, Business Modeling in Global Organizations. Really the focus of this course, and it's very much influenced by the work of Pierre and his colleagues at Reciprocity, is inclusive consulting at the base of the pyramid. The reason I mention that is because in addition to learning about South Africa, you'll also get a methodology from the point of view of doing consulting project. And that's really important to note because the emphasis is on inclusion, not coming from on high like a white savior and saying, aha, we are coming to fix you. It is all about understanding, collaborating, and building joint solutions to very tough dilemmas. So let me, now that I've just highlighted the importance of inclusion in the whole approach of the course, let me talk a little bit about the actual kind of academic mechanics. One of the things that, as Adam pointed out, attendance is mandatory and so is contribution. It is a different sort of approach when it's online, but I think by now all University of Toronto students have got used to being in some classes online, should certainly be able to contribute to the discussions during the time when we are in plenary, usually co-facilitated by Pierre, his colleague, Nico, and others. And I look forward to having good class contribution. Of course, sometimes not saying something is also a class contribution if we're all chatting away and maybe you don't need to add your 2 cents, that's a contribution. But generally the expectation is that as whatever our topics are, you will contribute. You will also be asked to write a journal, which is just very simple, just talk about some of the things that have really struck you. The variety, and I'll leave this to Pierre, the variety of guests that Pierre and Reciprocity bring in is stellar. Last year we had some utterly amazing guests, and many participants participants wrote their journals on their learnings from the guests. So class contribution is participate where in an appropriate, supportive way, and also makes a short journal about key learnings. The Trevor Noah autobiography, I've had students say how much at first they didn't want to read it just because that was just not interesting to them, but they quite on the contrary, once they started, they really, really learned a lot, came to appreciate a lot about the racist past in South Africa through his life. One participant commented that perhaps the most powerful learning in terms of Trevor Noah's autobiography was that he both read it and listened to it with Trevor Noah reading it at the same time. So he was fully immersed in Trevor Noah's life, as well as, of course, watch his many funny shows. So the purpose of it is, and I assign it early so you can just start to understand the real difficulties of his life, but some of the very, very funny moments as well. And you also come to appreciate the importance of his mother. And I think we can probably generalize a little bit out from that. So, of course, all these assignments will get to a little bit more detail once the course gets going. I'll talk about the take home first, and then it will be a good segue into Pierre's work. The take-home exam is basically more like a sort of self-examination. I ask you what you got out of the course. I'd probably ask you a little bit about kind of your main learnings from doing the project, because the project is so central, and then some kind of theory question. You will be exposed to a number of different cases. So we do some of the more traditional kind of management work. The course outline has a number of cases, of course, all set in South Africa. You will be able to learn from those. And in fact, you may well meet some of the players. It just depends in terms of who we get as guests. The consulting project, I'll be brief, is absolutely at the heart of the course. You will work in teams of 4. Adam said we're looking for 20, so we would have, if that's how it works out, we'd be looking at 5 projects. You will work with a micro entrepreneur who has already had some track record of success, and it's really important to understand that survival and a bit more is success. These are amazing entrepreneurs with tons of hustle. One of my colleagues who works in the international management space said in class one day, I don't know that we have actually much to teach African entrepreneurs. They know hustle like there's no tomorrow. So what we're not teaching, of course, is hustle, but perhaps some tools like setting up an accounting system or setting up marketing. Adam mentioned the student who was up every day at 5 a.m. because he was in San Fran. His project involved developing a marketing strategy. Another team looked at really basically kind of formalizing the banking records. We have lots to learn, and you also have lots to contribute through your talents, and they don't have to be restricted to business talents, but creative talents. What's exciting about it is, in addition to the presentation part, which is a very uplifting kind of end to the course, you will hand over materials that will be instantly usable. And so you will have guidance, recommendations, as well as your work that we can, of course, electronically forward. You will not be left to your own devices. There's a whole team of people to support you in terms of your consulting project. And perhaps the most important person for each team will be your cultural navigator, who will help you manage your relationship that you need to build with your micro entrepreneur. It's also important to remind you, and I know Pierre and Nico do a great job at the importance of building a relationship that's human, that isn't here, hi, I'm a consultant, let me tell you, ABC, that the human connection is profound, and that the human connection with your cultural navigator, who will perhaps save you from yourself. Certainly mine over the years have saved me from myself in terms of how to work in the township. So in short, we do some kind of traditional sort of BCom stuff, but at the heart and the soul of this course is working with a micro entrepreneur at the base of the pyramid. I hope you're really excited to take the course. And of course, once Nicole starts speaking, please believe what she says, even if you don't believe what I say, because Nicole was with us last year. Over to you, Adam.
Great. Thank you, Ann. Sorry, Ann, I was keeping you on your toes. The course code is, the name is not changed. The course title is indeed Inclusive Consulting with Micro Entrepreneurs, which is displayed on our website properly.
Yeah, no worries. I just thought, oh, this is new. Well, I'm glad I'm reading your slides. Okay, good.
Yes, I'm glad somebody is. Some other notes, just administrative notes about this course. It does count as a breadth requirement number 3, even though it is an MGT coded course. If you're a Rotman Commerce student, it can be used to satisfy the RSM program requirements. And if you are pursuing the focus in international business, then it can count towards that as well, which is a great option to consider. The timing of the course. So the classes do happen Monday to Friday. So you do have your weekends off from class time, although you may want to work with your group members then. And then my understanding, Anne, is that also the group members, we tend to group them together similar time zones so they can schedule working together a bit easier. Now I'm going to throw it to Pierre, who's going to talk a bit more about the way that reciprocity gets involved and some of the classes that they will lead and how they prepare you to work with your micro entrepreneurs.
So briefly, a couple of words about Reciprocity. That is, me and my colleague Nico founded Reciprocity in 2006. We're based here in Cape Town in South Africa, from where I'm speaking. I'm actually in our offices right now here in downtown Cape Town. We work mainly not in this office, but mainly in communities offering strategic services on inclusive and responsible business practices. We do qualitative research on lower income communities to help corporates, civil society, academic institutions to learn from the dynamics of emerging markets and emerging economies. We also occasionally test models in a variety of areas, including financial services, in energy and healthcare and housing. And very importantly, and this is, I think, is perhaps the most important thing, is that to do this, we're not the experts. I was not born in a township. I'm a South African, but I come from the very privileged side of South Africa's population. I cannot pretend to speak on behalf of anyone living in disadvantaged communities. Therefore, we rely on the expertise and the knowledge of a network of around 60 local navigators, cultural navigators, and Professor Armstrong mentioned to you, who work with us in the communities that you would be working in a variety of South Africa's townships. So in terms of our role this summer abroad in facilitating your remote assignment in South Africa, is we would be identifying and facilitating liaison with selected entrepreneurs in Cape Town's townships. We would be identifying your clients and of course, making sure that you work well with your local navigator, your cultural navigator. We would be arranging a series of lectures as well. So that would be the sort of not the academic part of the or academic or class component. And together with that, we would be providing content and logistical support to faculty, Professor Armstrong and University of Toronto, and to all of you during the remote and virtual field weeks. Typically, what this would entail would be around 5 consulting sessions with your selected township entrepreneur. Again, would be facilitated by a navigator from Reciprocity. We would, in addition to that, have around 5, maybe 6, we'll see depending on the schedule that we have, online classroom sessions, which were, as Anne has pointed out, be given by selected experts and tutors on emerging markets and related topics. I'm going to shortly show you a quick overview of what the schedule looked like last year, so that you have an idea of the topics that we would be covering. And in addition to that, we'd have another 2 or 3 online community-based meetings, which are moderated by the navigator, and a panel discussion with experienced township entrepreneurs. Finally, we would have a handover session for each of you, each of the groups, with your client, with your entrepreneur. Now, this is a lot of online meetings, but obviously we bear in mind that this is an intense program, and this is why, one of the reasons why we spread it out over several weeks. This is a picture of some of our navigators. In fact, several of them are involved in last year's program. This picture was taken just outside Cape Town. We did a bit of a team motivation session that day, and I just think it's important to show, the faces of the people who are actually doing the real work and who will be providing and contributing, hopefully, a huge amount to your experience, whether it's online or whether it's in person. But in this case, it would be online. They are very, very experienced people. We've now all sort of become used to working with Zoom, providing an online version, but I can tell you that all of them would be very, very keen to meet you all in person. But for this year, we'll be doing the online version. Here they are. In terms of how this whole approach is structured, we basically have what we call clients, which are usually small business owners that are willing to work with a team of consultants, that is you, on a project that is defined in a project brief. So we like for the clients themselves to define the brief to you, where they see their main challenges, where they see the key objectives that they want to achieve, and you work basically as professional consultants in accordance with their brief. As coaches here, that's me and Nico. So Nico and myself would be working to support you and provide you with guidance in as far as that is tuned and appropriate. Again, I mentioned the role of navigators, but these navigators are people from the communities that we work in, and they are a very important part of the process and play a very important role in that they provide you with context to assist you. Background information, of course, facilitates the research as much as possible. We like to believe that the navigators, and we actually insist on this, they are full members of your team. So they would be working with you very closely offline and online, meaning by that, I mean not only during the Zoom sessions, but actually through WhatsApp as well. Whenever you have questions that arise and things that you need to deal with or context that needs to be provided, then you would be communicating with your navigator as a privileged channel and a privileged access to knowledge on South Africa and the broader context. And of course, finally, there's you, the consultants. We refer to you as consultants during this assignment. From our perspective, that's what you are. You're not really students from that perspective. You would be working probably for several hours a day on client's brief, including a daily call with your client. Sorry, I said a daily call. It's actually not a daily call. It's going to be less than that. I said 5 calls over a period of 3 weeks. I do apologize. That's a typo on my side. These sessions with your clients would last generally between 30 minutes and an hour, sometimes a bit longer, depending on how rich the conversation is and how much information you need to gather. From a practical perspective, we would be using Zoom as a default remote meeting tool, but of course, it could be Teams, it could be other channels if that's more appropriate. I did mention WhatsApp for informal and spontaneous communications. And of course, want to make sure that we emphasize the fact that we're very mindful of the COVID protocols, even though the Omicron variant in South Africa is turning out to be much, much less virulent than previous variants. It goes without saying, I think this is important to mention, that we are taking it extremely seriously and that we do not want to take any chances exposing anybody on our teams or any of our interlocutors to any unnecessary danger or expose them unnecessarily to any potential health hazards. But this means that we equip our navigators with PPE equipment, with face masks, with sanitizer, and that we will be at all times looking at respecting social distancing and other measures to prevent anyone from catching COVID as a result of the work that we're doing. I did mention that I would show you the schedule that as it looked last year. Basically, typically this would be, so the whole program is spread over 4 weeks. Typically the first week is relatively, I did not include Professor Armstrong's sessions in this. There's an intro session before you actually start in South Africa. This is South Africa part of your 4-week program. We would obviously start with an intro session. We then have a couple of introductions with the navigator, and you would be on your own time downloading a documentary to watch about South Africa to provide you with that sort of historical background. We then, the following week, the real work starts. As you can see, it's a bit more full. We have a first classroom session. We have a debriefing session on the documentary, and then we start looking at the methodology that we recommend that you apply. It's not mandatory, but Anne has mentioned this, the supporting emerging enterprise methodology that is a framework that would hopefully be helpful for you to conduct your consulting mission with your entrepreneur. You then have a session, of course, with your entrepreneur the next day, and then we have a few classroom sessions. Most of them are with very experienced lecturers. They cover topics from the general context of South African politics to the role of China in Africa, for example. And then, of course, in between, we have a number of sessions on interesting and important topics as well, including, for example, entrepreneurship development in the South African context and other topics. Again, this is what your schedule would typically look like. I think you've noticed this probably, that we have an Eastern Standard Time, that would be Canadian Toronto time, and the South African Standard Time. So as you can see, I actually forgot to include the China Standard Time Zone here as well. But typically 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm sure many of you know this, in Toronto would be 2000 in China, so that's 8 p.m. And we try obviously to keep our classes not at ungodly hours, but at a time that is suitable and feasible for most people inside these time zones. So unless you're on the west coast of the American continent, or very somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you should be able to follow this program at times that are more or less waking time, hopefully for most of you. And as Anne mentioned, we have had some very motivated people last year who were actually based on the West Coast, and they were sufficiently motivated to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. This is just a map of Cape Town. So typically, this part of Cape Town is a sort of iconic Table Mountain, the view that most of you might have seen in pictures of Cape Town, the harbor, the central city, part of the city, and Table Mountain. But the bigger part of Cape Town is really this side, which includes the townships. As you can see, they're pretty huge. I think from this point here to about here is about 15 kilometers, so a good 10 miles, if not more than that. Actually, sorry, I'm mistaken. This is not 15, this is 30 kilometers. So this is around 15 miles, 20 miles, in fact. So it is a massively huge spread out area. It's a very large urban area. Now, typically, we expect your entrepreneurs to be either here in Langa, in this area. They could also be in Guguletu, which is this area over here, or they could be in Kailicha, which is over here. And each of these townships have populations exceeding, between Langa has about 100,000 people here. Guguletu probably has about 300,000 people, and Kailicha has anything between 600 to 700,000 people. So as you can see, these are very large population areas. And in these townships, we typically have thousands and thousands of small businesses, as you would expect to find in almost any emerging market around the world. I think this is just to give you a sense of where we would be working and where your entrepreneur, your client might find herself or himself during your consulting week. I think this is about it from my side. I just want to add a couple of more things, just very brief on the general context of South Africa and why we think South Africa is such an interesting place. You will be sufficiently motivated and interested to work on this assignment in South Africa. We are an emerging country, but we are not just any emerging country. I think that most of you are aware of our very particular and specific history of racial oppression, of a struggle against white minority rule and the liberation from white minority rule in 1994, with Nelson Mandela, the first Black South African president who was elected in the first democratic election. And the story of South Africa and the recent story of the last 3 decades is really how we've been managing the transition from 350 years of racial oppression to something that hopefully will end up being more equal and being more just. We really were hoping at this point that we would be much further down the line. Unfortunately, the inequality and the heritage of apartheid, of the system of racial oppression, and the injustice and the poverty that characterized that system are still with us. I think that the context in which you would be working, that is the broader sort of context in which you would be working. That is really important to understand our very recent history and our actual present at the moment. And it's very hard to understand anything in South Africa if you do not keep that baggage in mind that we have as a country. On some levels, we're like many other emerging countries, however, and we present characteristics that you might find in India or in Nigeria or in Ethiopia or in Brazil, which include things like the sort of overlap between the formal and the informal economy, the fact that people hustle, that the informal economy is a massive part of the economy that is incredibly important part of people's livelihoods. The fact that many of the challenges that we have in South Africa, including inequality and poverty, are actually global challenges. Now, in our case, the historical context is very specific, but really the issues that we are dealing with are really global issues. And in fact, it's interesting to sort of reflect on the fact that South Africa, in so many ways, is a microcosm of global issues. If you take any of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, all 17, I think there's 17 of them, if I'm not mistaken, you will find that South Africa really almost exactly mirrors the global sort of averages of, inequality, the Gini coefficient. You take South Africa's, it's 0.69. That's actually the global average. It's the same. So the gap between rich and poor is very similar to the gap between the global north and the emerging south, if that's the appropriate terms that we're using. And you could decline almost all of these numbers. Take the South African, I'm slightly exaggerating for effect, but it's not completely wrong to say that many of the challenges that as a country we're dealing with are in fact global challenges. So I think hopefully this sufficiently convincing for you to feel that if you do this experience, if you go through this program, that what you will learn through the eyes of your client in Langa or in Kailicha or Guguletu is hopefully going to apply in many, many other places. Obviously not exactly in the same manner, but many of the things and many of the challenges, many of the obstacles that your client would be facing would probably also be faced by someone who's working at the moment in Lagos, or someone who's trying to make a living in Mumbai, or somebody who's working in Brazil. So I think this makes the South African experience hopefully even more interesting for you. And we really, really hope to see you in May and in June and to work with you. And I think I'm going to conclude with that.
Great. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you for underscoring the uniqueness of South Africa, but also how it can be extrapolated to a global situation. So Pierre touched on a little bit of what the schedule would look like. So there's 4 weeks that you are working with Reciprocity, lectures with them, working with the micro entrepreneurs. Before that, you have a couple of classes that are just with Professor Armstrong and your colleagues in the class. So that's the very first week. And then there's one, after everything wraps up, there is a concluding class in the following week. So this is just an idea of the schedule in a different format here for you. So in terms of who might participate in Summer Abroad, these courses are open to all U of T students. We sometimes have alumni participate as well. In order to participate, you do need to be in good academic standing, which is having a CGPA above 1.75. And sometimes as well, we'll have visiting students. So from other North American institutions, students can apply and take this course as a transfer credit. But most importantly, I am excited to introduce you to somebody who has participated in this particular program last year. So we have Nicole joining us. Nicole is a fourth-year student studying management at UTSC. She's graduating in June, which was very exciting for her, I'm sure. And Nicole actually participated in 2019 in Hong Kong in one of our in-person programs. And then last year she did the virtual South Africa program, and she's going to speak with you a little bit about that. So please help me welcome Nicole.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole. Happy New Year. And thank you for inviting me as a speaker to share my experience. So first of all, I will start the reason for why I applied for the South Africa program. Like Adam mentioned, that I am the previous participant for the Hong Kong Summer Abroad program, and I greatly benefit from the Summer Abroad program to observe a different cultural environments, which deepens my cross-cultural understanding. So to build on those skills, I decided to take the virtual South Africa program in 2020. And because my program is management, I knew that participating in the program will help me to observe a new business environment. And this course is about inclusive consulting. And I think it's a key element for me if I would like to pursue a career in business field. Consulting skills will help me for that. And also after I read the description about the program, and I learned that this program will help me to learn broadly about commerce, social science, and relevant knowledge. And most importantly, the program focuses on honoring our consulting skills. So I think it will be helpful for me to pursue a career in business field. And also, I think it's not only for the business. I think the consulting skills is really helpful for people pursue any kinds of field. So this is the reason why I applied for the South Africa program. The second, I would like to briefly talk about the day-to-day experience in this course. Our program includes Professor mentioned about the book analysis, and Pierre mentioned about the community meetings, and we have the guest speakers, lectures, and we have general lectures. The last but not least, the most important part is final consulting engagement project. I would like to share about the community meeting. I think I greatly benefit from the community meetings because we met with local entrepreneurs who are really passionate about maximize the community goods and to bring a lot of benefits for the township. For example, we met with the child care center's president, and she mentioned that she's not only she run those families and to take care of those kids. So the passionate and the enthusiasm about those entrepreneurs really motivate me. It really inspirational to motivate me to be more work and study to pursue my future career and my personal goals. I would like to talk more about the final consulting project. So our group choose consult with a township entrepreneur who runs a furniture business, including chairs, benches, kitchen, cupboards, bookshelves, which are made using mostly by the recycled woods. And we have 5 consulting sessions. Adam mentioned about the schedule. We have the local navigator and program coaches, Pierre and Nicole, to help us to connect with the local entrepreneurs. We also made a group chat on WhatsApp to ensure we could ask questions and share our ideas with the local navigators. It's like build a bridge between us and the local entrepreneurs. And I think I greatly benefit from the final project, and I really enjoy the final team presentation. It aims to assist the township entrepreneur achieving his objectives. Most importantly, my team members are incredible. We came from different U of T programs, which made our ideas and business plans more diverse. For example, we have team members from program mathematics and accounting and finance. So it made our business plans more diverse. We are providing our final projects are from two parts. One is the financial part, and another one is marketing. I think from the final project, it helped me to improve my presentation skills and collaboration skills to work with other team members to come up business plans for the entrepreneurs. The last but not least, I would like to share the benefits of participating in this program. Actually, for me, I didn't have much experience with business consulting before participating in the program. Through this program, I learned important elements in the process of consulting and building business plans. In addition, I observed the way that township entrepreneurs operate their business and saw they're passionate to operate their business. Also, Professor Ann, program coaches Pierre and Nicole help us and provide a lot of recommendations, encourage us a lot when we're doing the final project. The schedule and course is well organized and easy to follow. Even though I was really nervous and anxious at the beginning and I feel a little bit shy to speak, however, the encouragement and support, and also I work with other team members and classmates and hear from them, it's actually helped me to step out of my virtual class comfort zone. So I think I greatly enjoy and benefit from this course. That's all I'd like to share. And if you have any question, welcome to ask. I'm happy to answer.
Great. Thanks so much, Nicole. We'll keep an eye on the Q&A module to see if any questions come in for you about the student experience. Somebody did ask if it's possible to take another full-time course, another full-year course while taking the South Africa course. And has anyone done that before? From the Summer Abroad Office perspective, we do not recommend taking another full-year course at the same time and being mindful as well of the other commitments, just because this is a very intensive experience. That said, I do think some of the students were perhaps enrolled in other courses during the month of May last year. We don't recommend it. So if you are interested in applying for virtual South Africa program, the applications are open now. The deadline is March 1st. Application process involves, it's not first come, first serve. You are asked some questions about why you're interested in this course, and we review your academic record and what you've written in order to make the admission decisions. So there's no rush to get your application in, but definitely make sure that you've applied by March 1st. There is a $200 application fee that you would submit when you are making your application, and it is refunded if you aren't selected for the program. This is what the application looks like if you've logged in, started it. And the question that you write for the personal statement, this is just for the virtual programs. We ask you to outline the reasons why you selected this particular course and describe how it fits in with your overall academic goals. In early March, we will be sending out the admission notifications. And then at that point in time, if you are accepted, you have 1 week to confirm your spot in the program. And you would do this by paying a $1,000 deposit that goes towards the overall costs of the program. If you are admitted and do not accept the offer, in that case, your application fee is not refunded. And then the remaining fees for the program, which we're going to look at, are due on April the 1st. If you've gone to our website and checked out the different costs, the costs for our programs are very different. Definitely, you will notice that the programs that are virtual are not as expensive as the ones that are happening in person. And that's largely due to the fact that you aren't buying a plane ticket, you're not paying for accommodations. So there is quite a bit of difference. And then even within our programs, there's different costs. And that's just determined by what the costs are in the country, what we're doing, what the exchange rate is like. So it is very important to take a look at those costs and to start budgeting now. Unfortunately, we don't have any bursaries or awards if the program is virtual, but for our on-site programs, there will be bursaries available. But you can always check with your registrar's office for any options that may exist. It is important to note that OSAP does cover these summer abroad courses because it is a U of T course, just like any other course. So you can extend your OSAP for the summer, or you can apply if you haven't applied for OSAP in the past. This is a breakdown of the costs for the the South Africa program specifically, for domestic students, overall for the cost, you're looking at about $3,300, and international students, it's about $4,500. Most of these fees are paid directly to the Summer Abroad office. It's just the incidental fees that are paid separately on your Acorn account. That covers all the basics, the overview of our South Africa virtual program for 2022. If you want more information, we have lots of other resources that you can dive into. If you visit our website, you can read more about programs. We have info sessions going on. For the month of January, we're doing info sessions for just our virtual program. And then starting in February, we'll be moving into offering info sessions for our other programs once we know if we're able to offer them in person or if some will be happening virtually instead. We also have a monthly e-newsletter that you can hear more about student experiences, our different programs. We also profile some of our faculty members there. And you can also book an appointment with a Summer Abroad advisor. So if you have more specific questions that you want to talk one-on-one with somebody, you can do that and we will meet with you online. And you can always give us a call or send us an email. All of these links are available if you scan the QR code on your phone. You'll be taken to a website that has links to all these things. Now, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A module, but I will leave it open for a little bit longer. I'd like to very much thank, though, all of our guests today. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us and speaking about the student experience. Thank you, Pierre, for dialing in from South Africa. Thank you, Anne, for joining us once again and being such a lovely spokesperson for this great opportunity and for making this experience happen for so many students. Thank you to everyone who's attended today. I hope that you have found this informative. It's piqued your interest in participating either in the South Africa program, or maybe you're interested in another Summer Abroad program still as well. So I hope everyone has a lovely day, and we'll see you later.